Alright, buckle up because this is a story you do not want to miss. You ever had that neighbor? You know, the one who thinks they own the entire neighborhood just because they're on the HOA board? Yeah, I had one of those. And her name? Karen. From the moment we moved in, she was on a mission to make our lives miserable. First, it was petty HOA complaints, our lawn wasn't perfect, our trash bins were out too long. Then she went after my dog, trying to get animal control involved. But when she tried to get me fired from my job, that's when I decided to fight back. And trust me, I had plenty of receipts. So grab some popcorn because this is the story of how I took down the HOA's worst nightmare. And let me tell you, the ending? It's beautiful. Let's get into it. So this is my first time posting, but after what happened, I just had to share. Strap in because this is going to be a wild ride. Let me set the scene. My wife and I moved into a nice little suburban neighborhood about 6 months ago. It's one of those cookie-cutter communities with an HOA, which we weren't thrilled about, but the price was right and the house was perfect. It was supposed to be our dream home. Supposed to be. Enter Karen. She lives 2 doors down and is somehow both the self-appointed ruler of the HOA and its biggest nuisance. Imagine a middle-aged woman with the classic "can I speak to the manager" haircut, a wardrobe consisting almost exclusively of yoga pants and overpriced sneakers, and an attitude that makes you question how some people function in society. The first time we met, it was clear she had already decided she didn't like us. We had barely finished moving in when she showed up at our doorstep, arms crossed, lips pursed like she had just smelled something awful. "Hi, I'm Karen," she said, looking past me into our house like she was already judging the interior. "I just wanted to let you know that we have standards in this neighborhood." Confused but trying to be polite, I asked her what she meant. Well, she sighed like she couldn't believe she had to explain. "Your lawn is already looking unkempt. And we have rules about trash bins. They can't be left out past 8 a.m. Mind you, we hadn't even unpacked yet. Our trash bins hadn't even been picked up for the first time. I explained this to her, thinking maybe she'd understand. "Nope, you should have read the HOA handbook before moving in," she sniffed. "We take pride in our community." I could tell this was only the beginning. A few weeks passed and sure enough, she was everywhere. If I parked my car an inch over the sidewalk, she'd be there with a tape measure. If our porch light was on too late, she'd send a complaint to the HOA board, which of course she was on. I even caught her peering over our fence one day, supposedly checking to make sure our backyard met standards. But the worst was when she came after our dog, Charlie. Charlie is a 10-year-old golden retriever who wouldn't hurt a fly. He's a good boy, never barks excessively, always on a leash during walks, and doesn't dig up anything. But Karen decided he was a problem because, apparently, his mere existence was an issue. One day, I was walking Charlie, and she marched up to me, arms flailing. "You need to control your beast," she snapped. I looked down at Charlie, who was literally wagging his tail and just vibing. "What? He barked at me the other day," she declared. "It was aggressive. Now Charlie rarely barks. And if he did bark at her, I'm willing to bet it was because she was probably standing too close to our yard, being her usual nosy self." I told her as much, but she wasn't having it. "I've already reported him to the HOA," she said smugly. "If I see him misbehaving again, I'll call animal control." "Excuse me?" That was the last straw. I decided then and there that if Karen wanted a war, she was going to get one. Little did she know I had receipts. And oh, was I going to use them? Alright, get ready for Chapter 2. This is where things start getting juicy. The Karen at Willow Creek HOA Chapter 2. So, after Karen threatened to call animal control on my completely harmless golden retriever, Charlie, I decided it was time to stop playing nice. I had spent the last couple of months dealing with her nonsense, but this was war. Remember when I said I had receipts? Yeah, Karen wasn't the only one paying attention to what went on in the neighborhood. Receipt number 1, the HOA violation queen. Violating the HOA. For someone who loved throwing the HOA rulebook at everyone else, Karen sure had a habit of ignoring the same rules when it suited her. 1. Her yard was a disaster. The grass was overgrown, she had weeds poking through the sidewalk cracks, and her front porch looked like a garage sale explosion. 2. She had an illegal fence. The HOA guidelines clearly stated that fences couldn't be taller than 6 feet. Hers? At least 8 feet tall, probably to keep out all the undesirable neighbors, read me. 3. She constantly left her trash cans out. Remember how she chewed me out for mine? Well, I had multiple photos of hers sitting at the curb for days after pickup. And my personal favorite. 4. Karen's side hustle, aka the illegal daycare. HOA rules explicitly stated that no home businesses were allowed unless approved by the board. But every weekday, at least 5 different parents would pull up, dropping off their kids at Karen's house. Turns out she was running some under-the-table daycare operation out of her home. So, what did I do with all this juicy info? Oh, just a little anonymous email to the HOA president and county zoning board. Receipt number 2, the security camera footage. Remember how I caught Karen peeking over our fence? Well, what I didn't mention was that I had installed security cameras around my property after her first few visits. And guess what? The footage showed her peering into our backyard multiple times, walking onto our driveway and looking into our garage windows, pulling out her phone and taking pictures of our house. That looked a whole lot like harassment and trespassing to me. The beginning of the end for Karen. So I set the stage. The HOA board, which thank God Karen wasn't the president of, received my complaint first. And the reaction? Immediate. A week later, Karen received a formal notice of violations. She had 30 days to clean up her yard. She was ordered to take down her illegal fence or face fines. She was fined for repeated trash violations. And oh yeah, her daycare operation? The county zoning board caught wind of it and sent a cease and desist order. Karen was livid. How do I know? Because the morning she got the notices, she stormed down my driveway, pounded on my door like she was the police, and the moment I opened it, she screeched, "I know this was you." Oh, Karen. Sweet, sweet Karen. I just smiled. I have no idea what you're talking about. And with that, I shut the door in her face. But little did I know, Karen wasn't done yet, because when you back a Karen into a corner, she will escalate. Alright, time for chapter 3, where Karen goes full nuclear mode and things get even messier. Buckle up, the Karen at Willow Creek HOA, chapter 3. After I shut the door in Karen's face, I figured she'd fume for a while and maybe, just maybe, finally leave me alone. Oh, how wrong I was. Because, like any entitled Karen, when faced with the consequences of her own actions, she didn't reflect. She didn't back down. She doubled down. Karen's first revenge attempt, the mysterious HOA complaint. About a week after our doorstep confrontation, I got an official-looking letter from the HOA. Notice of violation. It has come to our attention that you are in violation of multiple HOA regulations, including but not limited to improper lawn maintenance, unauthorized modifications to your property, disturbing the peace within the neighborhood. Oh, and the kicker? Failure to comply may result in fines and/or legal action. Now, remember, my lawn was pristine. No modifications had been made to the house, and disturbing the peace? The only thing I had done was exist. I knew exactly who was behind this. So I sent a friendly email to the HOA board asking for specifics. Dates, photos, evidence, anything to prove these claims. Turns out the only evidence submitted was an anonymous complaint. Gee, I wonder who that could be. The HOA president, who had already had enough of Karen's antics, basically responded with, "Yeah, ignore that. You're fine. Strike one, Karen." Karen's second revenge attempt, the mysterious animal control call. 2 days after the fake HOA complaint, I got a knock on my door. It was animal control. Karen actually called animal control on my dog. I greeted the officer and he immediately looked sheepish, like he already knew this was a waste of time. Yeah, he started, flipping through his notes. "We got a report that your dog is aggressive and dangerous." I looked down. Charlie was literally asleep on the welcome mat. The officer glanced at him and sighed. Yeah, I figured this was BS. He still had to do his job, so I invited him in, showed him Charlie's vet records, and even let him watch Charlie do his usual excited wiggle dance when he got a treat. The verdict? No issues, no warnings, no citations, nothing. Before he left, the officer actually said, "Between you and me, this happens all the time. We get these reports from nosy neighbors who just don't like someone." I smiled. "You mean Karen's?" He laughed. I didn't say it, but yes. Strike two, Karen. Karen's final revenge attempt, the nuclear option. At this point, Karen must have realized her little tricks weren't working. The HOA wasn't backing her up. Animal control wasn't taking her seriously. So she went nuclear. How? She tried to get me fired from my job. One afternoon, I got an email from HR. It was flagged urgent. It read, "We received a complaint about your behavior outside of work. Can you meet with us to discuss this?" Now, my job has nothing to do with my home life. I work remotely, keep to myself, and have never mixed business with personal drama. So I was baffled until I noticed something in the email. Attached was a screenshot of the complaint. It was an email from Karen, and it was unhinged. She claimed I was a hostile and dangerous person in my neighborhood. I had a history of violent behavior. Completely false. I verbally threatened her and other neighbors. And my personal favorite, I fear for my safety as well as the safety of others. Oh, and she made sure to CC my company's CEO. Big mistake, Karen. The final blow, Karen's downfall. I immediately called my boss, who thankfully already knew me well enough to know this was ridiculous. I explained the situation, sent over my own evidence, including security footage of Karen harassing me, and within an hour, HR sent me this. "We've reviewed the complaint and found it to be baseless. You're in no trouble. Please let us know if you need any further support." Not only that, my boss, she was pissed. And since Karen had CC'd the CEO, you better believe word of this nonsense spread fast. And then, the real consequences hit. 1. Karen received a formal legal warning for making false claims about me to my employer. 2. I reported her to the police for harassment, and guess what? They took it seriously, especially after I provided all my security footage. 3. The HOA held a special meeting, which I attended, where multiple neighbors came forward with their own complaints about Karen. 4. And the final cherry on top? Karen's husband, who had no idea she was pulling all this, was mortified. A week later, Karen was removed from the HOA board. 2 months later, a for sale sign appeared in her yard. And 3 months later, and just like that, Karen was gone. No more petty complaints. No more fake reports. No more HOA tyranny. Just peace, quiet, and a happy golden retriever. Honestly, I still smile every time I see a trash bin left out past 8 a.m. But let this be a lesson: if a Karen ever tries to ruin your life, just make sure you've got receipts. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment with your own crazy Karen experiences. I want to hear 'em. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay petty, my friends.